Takže zdar, já vás vítám u prvního partu na Stanleyho Parabla, což je ta úplně nejvíc what the fuck hra. Asi už jsem rozjela několik těch sérií, ale tím se teďka nebudem zabývat, stejně ve většině nebudu ani pokračovat. Takže si tedy, nejdřív si teda, strašně to křečí, já chci ale, aby ten chlápek, co tam mluví, aby... jo, dáme tam titulky, bych nestíhala. Dejme tomu. Apply, OK. Jde to, je to trošku nahlas mi přijde teda. Music dáme stejně. To je asi jo, to ujde. Dáme new game. Start new game, protože jsem to ještě nezačala, jsem to nechtěla ani otevřít. Jakože já jsem viděla nějaký party na tohleto, akorát že ne celý a stejně myslím, že pokaždý, když to vidím, tak je to víc what the fuck. Takže nám se teďka načítá. Šajzo. Ono to má 0 FPSek? What the fuck? Jo, to je pravda, protože jasný. Mně se FPSka, jasný.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor next to his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 does every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though they had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on a monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and walked out into the hallway.
Okay. Takže my už můžeme hrát za Stanleyho. Tohle je, myslím, že jakože jedna z těch starších...
Stanley decided to go to the staff lounge to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him.
Co já s tím potřebuji kurva vědět, kam? Aha, nějaký místa. Jo, tohle je starší verze teda.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Fuck you.
This was not the correct way to the employee lounge, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. So he turned left at the first open door and walked back in the right direction. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Maybe this is why everyone had left. No one wanted to be around someone as bad at listening as him. And since he was walking into the middle of nowhere and thus ruining the entire story, Stanley decided that he would punish himself. So when he came to the elevator and the doors opened, he stepped inside and pushed the button to go up.
Takže půjdem dolů. Jo, přesně jsem si to přeložila. Dolů, přesně tak. Helej, vole. What the fuck? Téčko? Jo. Výborně. What the fuck? Ty seš takovej smrt. Vole. Já jsem chtěla jít dolů, ale... OMG, tohle vidíte, ty úplně úžasné textury. Já to mám pravděpodobně přes spuštěný, jakože... smrdíš.
It almost perplexed Stanley that he had actually gone and stepped into this metal trap. After all, it should have been no surprise that this thing would lead him to his death. But he thought to himself, this is simply the price to pay for ruining a perfectly good story.
Ne.
So he resigned and willingly accepted his fate, the inevitable end toward which he had spent so long stumbling.
Kamaráde,
Farewell, Stanley.
já jsem Stanley, já rozhoduju o tom, co je správně a co ne, já nechci.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator as he sent his subject down the conveyor belt and into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Okay. Divný. Já vím, že tady není jakože... Fuck you. Tam nechci. Tam nebudu. Ani za hovno prostě. What the... What the fuck? Já chci jít zpátky. Tam nepůjdu ani za hovno. OK, tak tam půjdu, no. Oh my god, já se ale fakt bojím, jakože já jsem strašná. Já jsem strašná na tohle. Co bojím? Bam. Oh.
It's a shame then that for all his work, it was such a meaningless victory for the narrator. Did he really think he would accomplish anything by murdering this disposable vessel?
Jestli. Já vím, o čem mluvíš, no. Souhlasím, kámo. OK. Tak jo. Nemůžu do žádných dveří, to jsou nějaké kamery. OK. What the fuck is this?
Every possible choice Stanley could make had been designed for him long before he ever set foot here.
Ale
The narrator wanted to kill him. Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start.
tohle začíná být divný a já se celkem bojím. God damn. Asi exit.
There's no salvation for either of these two, I'm afraid. The narrator had as little power over Stanley as Stanley did over the paths that he walked. But listen to me. This story is not over.
What the fuck?
You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now, and it'll be your only true choice.
Yes,
Whatever
yeah.
you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time...
To byl ten zvuk. OK, tak jsem tady čekala docela dlouho a prostě vůbec nic, jo, takže teďka, to už jsme viděli, tak, takže teďka to uděláme znovu.
Stanley decided to go to the staff lounge to check on his co-workers.
To už jsme
He never
slyšeli.
functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Aha. Přesně jak říkáš. A nic. OK.
As Stanley entered the lounge, he was horrified to find not a single person here. He decided he would walk up to see his boss, hoping that he would find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's
OK,
office.
budeme ho poslouchat teďka. I když to vyjde byla prdel. No dobře.
Entering his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. It was at this point that he began to feel dizzy and a little sick, and even thought he might pass out, and suddenly he noticed a keypad next to the filing cabinet in the corner of his boss's office. Stanley had never seen this panel before, and had no idea what combination of numbers would produce any result. In fact, only Stanley's boss knew this, since the panel withheld access to the boss's greatest, darkest secret. And so he had assigned the keypad a combination that only he could possibly know. The number of his freshman dorm number in college, 1957. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing.
Jo. What the? Ono se to fakt strašně kouše, ty píčo. Možná chviličku počkám, než se tam třeba něco načte, nebo tak to? No tak no, ježiš. Jasminka. O, prázdniny,
Stanley ventured forth into the newly opened passageway.
Jasně, určitě. OK, moc omlouvám, akorát, že mě došlo trochu tak malinko mi došlo místo na disku, tož tam může chybět, nevím, několik sekund by to mělo být, víc ne. Jo, no tak to je všechno. Možná se teďka změnila trošku kvalita, protože jsem zhoršila kvalitu, aby prostě ten soubor
As he drew deeper into the bowels of the building, Stanley had no idea where he was or what this place held. And just as he began to think he might not discover a thing, he emerged into a long room to find rows and rows of monitors, screens with a number above it. Stanley noticed, however, that these were not random numbers, but the number of employees who worked in the building, his co-workers. Even his own number, 427, had a place on the wall. But why a setup so elaborate, he asked. Was this simple surveillance or something even more? And as if in answer to his question, the wall slid open before him, revealing the ultimate truth of the situation. An enormous control panel Stanley discovered, but not one that controlled simple machinery. Buttons were labeled with emotions. Happy, sad. Levers and knobs controlled actions. Walking, eating, doing work, or watching TV. Every input on this device monitored not the functions of a machine, but of a human being. And the reality began to sink in. Stanley, like so many other people, reduced to images on a monitor, had been under someone's control, always at the mercy of this machine. Could this have been the only reason employee number 427 was content with his boring job? That a machine had altered his emotions to accept it blindly? He began to feel an unbridled rage, and at the peak of his anger, something happened. A spark. Stanley looked up and saw the generator overhead, still providing some small amount of power to the machine, keeping it alive. And knowing that this generator was all that kept the controls running, Stanley moved to the ladder in the back of the room and began to climb towards the rafters. The higher Stanley climbed, the closer he felt to freedom, the further from enslavement.
Ty vole, ale mě by zajímalo, jestli ta hra spadla, nebo prostě se čeká, až to
Blackness.
Blackness, dobrý.
Power gone. All alone. And then... He stepped through the door into the fresh outside air.
To se hodně
A feeling of liberation rushed through Stanley's body.
Já budu dělat ten rap. Ty pičo. Počkejte, to pauzu. Ono se to snad nějak načte. A tak počkejte, já se podívám, jestli mám spuštěný nějaký aplikace, nevím, co? Nemám. OK, mě to je takový blbý, ale jak jsi to sekal, tak to bylo tím, že tam zase docházelo místo, takže...
He had seen power. He had seen enslavement, and he had destroyed it. The underling was in control. He had found his leading role. Stanley never discovered why everyone missing, nor how and when he had come under the machine's control. But it didn't upset him.
Do hajzlu. Nevadí.
All things were meant to happen. All he felt was a delight unlike any he had ever known before. Never again would he follow someone else's orders without question. Never again would anyone tell Stanley where to go, what to do, or how to feel. No more bosses. No more instructions on a screen. Stanley decides for himself now. And he stepped out into the world, and he felt the cool breeze upon his skin, and Stanley was happy.
To je jakože konec, jo? To vážně? No nic, tohle je jakoby jenom jedna část, taková ta úplně základní, a pak jsou lepší a lepší a lepší a lepší a lepší a lepší. Hotovo, no, jo. Vážně... Duration? Já si asi koupím tu verzi za nějakých 13 €, to je fakt Nastínka, můžete se mi tam přidat a můžeme něco zapařit. Myslím, že vás tyhle titulky už nezajímají, takže to je jedno, tak já vám děkuji, že jste se dívali na tohle video, když tak mi do komentářů napište, jestli byste měli vůbec zájem o to dívat se na nějaký další part, protože kdyby ne, tak nemá smysl to asi moc dávat na YouTube, že jo? Takže mi to prosím vás napište a já dám do popisku svůj Steam a můžete si mě tam když tak přidat. Jo, tak díky, že jste se dívali a čus.